first just tell us what made you speak out. What was it?
I mean, I think it just, at the end of the day, has so much more to do with right now. And this honestly probably won't affect Blair and playing on my team at this time, but it has to do with the generations of girls coming through wanting to play Division I sports and making that change for them so they don't ever have to go through this. And I think that's the biggest push factor of why I felt so inspired to want to join this lawsuit.
Really making a run in that second set, and maybe even the first.
Here's Warden with the serve. The Spartans with a big kill. How about it, Blair Fleming? 5 kills in this opening set.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Tyler Yonke, LPR, coming to you on Monday. Tomorrow is election day. I hope everyone can hear me out there. Hope everyone's doing good. We are going to break this down a little bit. I don't know if you've heard the controversy. Some things came out. I'm more adept in aware of the San Jose State volleyball transgender issue. Do we have to use special words so we're not taken off of YouTube? Perhaps. So here's the deal. We're gonna walk our way through this a little bit. I'm gonna give you a little bit of my background on sports and why this is what's good, Tyler. Or Josh Smith's kids, all millions of them coming in here. Thanks. By the way, we'll just do a real quick recap here. You've been volunteered to run NDS all day election stream tomorrow. Wait, to set up a run. Are they? I know they're going over there right now with Jose and them. I saw Jose this morning earlier, and I'm volunteer. I'm not volunteering to do shit for them. They don't. You know how much they pay me? Where's the crickets noise? They don't pay me shit. Yeah, it would be nice to just do this all the time. Come on, Tyler, you're trying to get me in YouTube jail again. I don't know what that means, but yeah, I am. Of course, I'm trying to get you in YouTube jail. Maybe it's because you're at work, and so you're in trouble. Let me just say a few things. So, did a show last week that went really well. The Louder with Crowder. A little bit of the legal breakdown. I did this week. This came on, so I was going to do this. Otherwise, here's a whole thing I had planned. I was going to do like a legal rundown today. We were going to do sexual assault on the beach, Kamala and SNL breaking laws, the equal time law, which I think is gross. Trump's crimes against Cheney. Someone's coming after him about the comments he made about Cheney. Give her a rifle and then 9 guns pointing at her. And the Arizona DA or Attorney General is thinking about coming after him for that. It seems ridiculous. There's emergency docket issue with SCOTUS, the RNC versus Pennsylvania. I think that got rejected. Good logic, Joe Neerman. His case is before the Supreme Court. Hang on. Excuse me. I don't know what the problem talking. So there's his dockets up there. But then the San Jose State volleyball thing came on, and I'm like, we'll just break this down. So if you saw the clip earlier there, you can see that I did the Louder with Crowder. That went well. I talked to my friend Jonathan on Saturday. I hope you guys saw some of that. It's not a widely viewed show, and it was interesting. I just love talking to him and I miss him. So that was fun, but we obviously have differing opinions. And I think what really comes out, and I don't want to talk behind his back at all on any of this. So, but I'll say a few things, which is if you watch it, Trump derangement syndrome is valid. There wasn't a lot of policy issues that he had with Kamala. So it was really about, and we talked about this with sports, which is, you root for the team that you don't hate as much, or the person, and it's very much like this. So for me, it was interesting to talk to someone who knows policy, very good, very deep and with all this stuff. But that wasn't at all his issues, because, I'm trying to just say that I think they're both bad. So let's talk about some other things, what may be coming up, but you can't get there. So it's the reality of the situation. So I get 24-hour comments banned if I'm not careful. Oh, okay. Well, be careful. We're going to talk about this stuff a little bit. So let me just break through, first of all, where I'm at as far as sports go. I don't need to give you my whole athletic background, but I'm quite the fucking athlete. No. So I played volleyball a lot in high school, college. Then I coached high school volleyball for my son. He still plays. He called me the other day. He still goes out and plays. He's out through college now. He played in college as well. And my daughter played volleyball. She played basketball, everything. She was quite the athlete. He was an outside hitter. He played mid a little bit. They went to a little school. Pretty tall he is. And my daughter is a setter. I set. I played in college too. So this is a sport that is near and dear to me, and it's a lot of fun, right? But you have to be somewhat good to play different aspects of this sport. And then it's interesting to see this dynamics of men and women, men playing in women's sports and how that's comes across, right? It's a big deal right now. I'll just also back up a little bit. I know people like to bash on me for cycling, but I did it at a very high level in the United States. I did a little foreign stuff here and there, but when I was younger, I rode growing up, high school, college. I was on the collegiate team at the University of Colorado, which is a pretty big deal, number one team in the nation at the time, national champions that year. Then went on and did it, rode on a pro team and did a lot of racing, took time off, came back and did it as an amateur. So there's different, and I want to say this real quick because it plays into this, right? Which is I rode. So cycling has multiple levels. Think of like golf and your handicap. They do that as well because you can actually compete in race. It's not like doing a marathon, kind of, where you get a lineup depending on your qualifying times and stuff like that. Kind of like that, except for you don't just get stickers like, it's full on competition than racing. You don't just, sometimes they'll pull you if you're too far behind the group or if you get lapped in a what's called a criterium. So it's not quite like the participation trophy stuff. It's all competition. And the more you race, they have categories. 5 is the bottom, 1 is the top, and then there's pro. And 1 and pro often race together, depending on how big fields are. Sometimes 1, 2s and pros often race together, and sometimes 1, 2s, and even 3s. So you got 5s, which is your low end category, and there's a reason for I'm talking about this. Then you get it increased by your experience, and then it has to do with your competition. You have to get points for certain qualifying, like for placing, right? For doing well in races, then you get to move up in these categories. Now, within those categories, there's there's men's categories and there's women's. Then there's also like by age, right? Men just go through these. So I could go to a race someday. There's these, short 1 hour races. They do timed stuff, like a circuit type of, think of NASCAR. And, I could do one on my category. I could do one with the age in category. And, I could do all kinds of races. So at my age, I could do sometimes 4 different races in a day, which I would often do. You can't race in a women's category. But women, the men's were considered open, so they would race in our categories. When I was just out of college and I was racing in Colorado a bunch, which was like the Hollywood for cycling, you would have pro women racing in lower categories or, coming across and racing with the men. It was never an issue because they were never competitive. They would do it for fitness, for getting speed work to see what they can actually, kind of do. And with that in mind, it was never a problem. Sometimes they get in the way, but it was helping on their, they had to qualify in their own division, then to come across to do the men's. So there was a time there where we're racing and there's the number 1 woman in the world racing with us. Okay. Jeannie Longo was her name. Now, if you look her up, you're like, oh, interesting. Cause she raced in Olympics, world championship. I mean, she won everything you can imagine. She also took a lot of drugs. But she wasn't even competitive in our races. So you're having, people that are mid-amateur men just, destroying this top woman in the world, even when she's like loaded on drugs. So there's a complete difference that you have with this. Now it's transgender stuff is happening and you're seeing, men race in the women's categories. It's happened up here in Northern California. And it's fascinating to see because where I'm at, just in Sacramento area, so, a few hours, an hour and a half or so from the Bay, which is very progressive. And there a lot of cycling happens over there and then they come over here and the women don't like it, but they will not say anything about it. It is mum's the word. And it's fascinating because here's all these liberal women. They're suddenly being confronted with their own ideology, and they're not enjoying it. Now they'll cheer it on from the outside as long as it doesn't affect them. But suddenly they go to a race, and some dude's out there just literally destroying them, and they have to just kind of be okay with it. And it's disgusting. And so now you're having the men having to stand up for this. And I do have a tweet. This guy I used to race with that I just found it super easy to find here, and he's talking about cycling, and he's like, I see the usual, I'm just reading it here. I see the usual transphobes on here celebrating exclusion today because cycling actually started to say, look, you have to make different, you can't just be doing this, right? And so he's like, what I see is also a women's field with, anyway, he's talking about this, and he's like, they claim to care about women's cycling. But if you're celebrating today, we know what it is you actually care about. This is crazy thought, where he's promoting men racing in women's cycling as and if you're against that, you're anti-woman. He's really the misogynist. I mean, if you really think about it, you're like you literally are upset that men can't dominate women's sports, and you're saying it's for women. What about all these women out there? Okay, now the reality of the situation is, if you just really want to resolve this completely, you just have no categories. You just say we are wide open and first come, first serve, winner take all. And then you're basically eliminating women's sports, right? Altogether. Title IX was put in, I want to say 72, somewhere in there. I know it was the Nixon administration, Title IX, to try to help women's inclusion in sports and give them a chance. So a lot of these colleges, I know when I went to University of Colorado, example, they used to have a baseball team. They had to cut that out because they have to have equal men and women sports. Well, the men's drive it, right? The men's really drive the money coming into, like Colorado. I mean, they really just had football, right? Football. The women, I'd go watch the volleyball because I enjoyed that. Their basketball team was, some years it'd be good, some years it'd be complete shit. So that was always interesting. You know, you had nice schools that come in, so you'd go watch Kansas come and destroy. Okay, there you go. But they didn't have this baseball team anymore because they needed to have as many men as women's sports. And so you don't just go on popularity. And I know there was, stories out there in the 90s and 2000s of famous schools with wrestling had to do away with that because that didn't make money, even though those activities and those were really good, because they needed the ones that supported them the money to then match the women that had to be able to play there as well. So you've got all these different dynamics. However, here is where we are, which is we have women's sports. You can't have gender inequality. So they get their opportunities. Wonderful. For me, I think it's, college sports is really a way for, if you're going to be that 1%, 0.1% or whatever it is, it might be a professional in that certain sport, golf, football, volleyball, whatever. Volleyball is not, you can make a living out of that, but it's a little less. Okay. The point I'm getting at is that is a venue and an avenue for those people to go and obviously compete. But it's more about them getting a free education in this world where our money doesn't go as far, and you have government-controlled loans. The Obamacare went in there and they federalized all these loans, and then school costs went up. So you're getting a ridiculous degree oftentimes, but at least some of these people aren't going to go through there with loans and issues. And so San Jose State comes along, and I've often wondered, because it's in the news a bunch, what the situation is with the team. If you don't know, they have a male playing on the team, and in that, just look at these comments real quick. Dwayne, I played a little court, I imagine, volleyball years ago in a church league. No spiking allowed. Church volleyball is the worst. Volleyball is one of those sports that if you play it okay, or if you understand how to play it, it's the most frustrating thing to ever play with a group of people that can't, because the ball come over and people like punch at it, or they don't know what they're doing, and the whole bump set spike situation is invaluable. It's the only way to go, and it's so much fun when you get it down. When I coached, I had two nephews, the twins. They were in the same class as my son. They're actually only 10 days apart. They're not the twins, but my son and the twins. And these boys, were 6'4", 6'5". They were, stars of the basketball team, dunking. And I talked to one, and I'm like, hey, how would you like to, how you like to dunk the basketball? It doesn't happen all the time. How would you like to dunk every time you get down the court. I'm like, that's what volleyball is. If you're a bit, and he was a middle hitter, I'm like, you very talented. And I'm like, you can, that's the sensation of it. So when you start to play well and you be able to play above the net like that, it's incredible what you can do. So sorry, Dwayne, you had to go there. Josh Smith Kid said vast majority of knowledge of volleyball comes from the anime. I don't know what's going on there. If you ever watch, go on the internet and watch volleyball on like the Olympics, right? Men's. It's so fast and so high end that you could only really watch it when they do the slow-mo replay. I mean, that's the best thing because these plays are just so high speed and it's so much power and force in there. Not the women's, but the men's. Okay, there's a huge difference. Okay, so here's the San Jose State San Jose State University volleyball team. There's this person, Blair Fleming. It's a dude on the team, and now they've been just destroying people, and so other teams have just started to actually forfeit and decide not to play. And I've often wondered what's going on within this team. How does this team feel about it? Or they're all just a woke people or whatnot. See you, Dwayne. He's out. Or whatnot. And with this, their setter has actually come out and she's joined this lawsuit with Riley Gaines and a few others, a bunch of women in sports to basically complain about this situation, unfair practices under Title IX going up to so they're making a lawsuit about it. What's interesting is this person has a scholarship and you are risking your scholarship. Now, one of the assistant coaches done a complaint as well under Title IX. And with that, she got fired recently. So here's this article by Colette. I'm not going to go walk through the whole entire article, but we will read some of it. I'll just give you the intro part and then we'll go through a little bit here. On October 26th, the University of Nevada, Reno Division I women's volleyball team was scheduled to host a Mountain West Conference match against San Jose State University, SJSU, Spartans. It was a game that everyone knew would take place because UNR's players would not take place because UNR players publicly denied they would not be showing up, notwithstanding the stubborn insistence of UNR officials that the university intended to move forward with the match as scheduled. When it became clear that UNR would be required to pay the Spartans travel costs if UNR forfeited the match on game day, as everyone knew they would, the location of the, by then completely imaginary, match was changed to the Spartan Gym in San Jose, California. But of course, when game time arrived, the gym was empty, as everyone knew it would be, because members of the UNR team were busy conducting a press conference explaining why they'd stayed home, and the whole farce concluded with SJSU winning by forfeit. And, of course, Riley Gaines is kind of the one taking all this on. She was a swimmer that had to compete. I think she was on the podium with that Leah Thomas dude that outswam everyone else. This is the fifth women's volleyball team whose players have chosen to forfeit against SJSU this season, all for the same reason, which was described in media statements put out by members of the UNR squad. Quote, "We, the University of Nevada, Reno women's volleyball team, forfeit against San Jose State University and stand united in solidarity with the volleyball teams of Southern Utah University, Boise State, University of Wyoming, and Utah State University. We demand our right to safety and fair competition in the court be upheld. We refuse to participate in any match that advances the injustice against female athletes." Injustice. So this is Blair Fleming, senior. She's on the leaderboard. She's most spikes and kills in the team. It's pretty much her doing damage to everybody. What the site does not mention is that the San Jose State women's volleyball star is not biologically female. Rather, Fleming is a biologically male athlete who chooses to self-identify as a woman for the legal and social purposes. However, in keeping with the official farcical aspects of this saga, SJSU officials have been required to pretend that this fact is somehow less important to the volleyball community than Fleming's artistic inclinations or culinary interests. The pretense is rooted in the official policies of SJSU's athletics department, which demand that the asserted female gender identity of trans women, such as Fleming, be taken as trumping human biology. This explains why, when the above described farce finally ended on October 26. It was UNR which fields an all-female volleyball team that was required to forfeit, not SJSU, which doesn't. In many ways, the story is similar to others. So then he talks about some of those others. This is Brooke Slusser. She's a transfer student. She's the co-captain. She's also the setter on the team. So if you don't know much about volleyball, think of this, because it's very important. She is basically the quarterback. Every time the ball comes over, they pass it. They want to set it up to the setter, and that setter will then focus on where the ball is going as to the plays. You run trick plays, stuff up the middle, outside, back court as well. And this is basically the quarterback of the team. Touches the ball, should touch the ball every play. They play a 5-1, which is she's always the setter as it rotates around, even when she goes into the front row. So she's touching the ball all the time. So she's in a dilemma where she's the one distributing basically the passing. And she's got a receiver out there that she doesn't think should be on the team, yet she's being forced by the coach to be setting this person up and making sure that they get the balls and they're having all these kills. She's winning. And so it's problematic in a sense and troubling for her to have to do this, because now she's coming out and actually she's made comments and she's joining this lawsuit to go against it. Now, she had also had to room with this person at one point. She had no ideas that this was a male posing as a female. Now, here's the coaches. This one on the left here, the dude, that's the head coach. He seems to be pushing, trying to make this thing go away. I don't know if he's scared about his job. The one in the middle, she raised complaints about it. She got fired. I don't know who this is. Someone else that's SGSU in the administration. So most of the team, almost the entire team, seems to be with Brooke. Seems to be some that aren't with Brooke, like two or so. And one made a comment in here because there was a situation. Let's see if I could even get to the when they played at this is actually a really good article, and it'll be interesting to kind of see the controversy, how it comes out, because there's, I guess, now counter-suing, or the school is making complaints about these people, the Slusser, the volleyball setter, that she is now, since you're coming out, she's fomenting hate and whatnot. And we'll talk a little bit about Obama and what he did with Title IX. Remember, there was a lot of hate towards Trump's Department of Education. I'm trying to remember her name. Where she rescinded a lot of these things that Obama had tried to put in place. And a lot of them went towards this kind of insane stuff here, which, many people are still on board. Let's see. Let's do the given her fracture, social, where is it? Okay, so this was interesting. We'll read this here. Peter Lim, the SJSU's athletic department interim Title IX and gender equity officer, think about that, was summoned to deliver a 90-minute presentation to the Spartans audience, in which he explained that trans-identified athletes such as Fleming are members of a, quote, protected class under Title IX's provisions. Beatty Schmoose, that's the assistant coach, says she felt the stare of the presenter's eyes during this proceeding, suggesting that she constituted his intended audience. Lim did not respond to Quillette's request for comment. 3 days later, Betty Smoose reports Kress, that's the coach, somewhat cryptically forwarded her an oddly phrased email from one, quote, Gary Brickwood, a lawyer who purported to offer Kress, the coach, assurance that he'd be within his legal rights to strip Slusser of her team captaincy, revoke her scholarship, and even throw her off the team, while also directing a gratuitous jab at Slusser's mom. That email copy, which came by Quillette, in part reads as follows. A person, Slusser, has a constitutional right as an individual to join or file a lawsuit challenging another person's right to play in a sport. To play a sport. A person does not have a right as a team member to lie on public media about danger posed by teammate Fleming, presumably, in order to attempt to ban the teammate from playing or to cause the team as a whole, in effect, forfeit its remaining games, knowing other schools will act like blockheads. That's the legal term. The school, as you coach, along with the athletic director, I presume, have the discretion to decide that Slusser is knowingly harming her teammate and the volleyball team and should lose her playing position, co-captain position, and her scholarship. It is apparent that Slusser's mother and her daughter feel hatred towards trans people. The school should stop facilitating the public display of hatred. Now, what I want to say is, Jerry Rice, or you've got a great receiver out there. There's only way you're going to make amazing plays and to have a lot of yardage and catches is if the quarterback throws to you. Much like you're not going to get kills, like we just played in the intro here, a bunch of spikes that are down, basically you get the point for it, without being set up by the setter, which is Slusser. So the fact is that this person is having, the most kills, that she's killing it, she's literally, and she's doing great on the team. The only is indicative of the fact that this person that's filing the lawsuit is still doing her job. So you're not going to remove her for that. And if you are, now that is complete retaliation, and that he would have problems there as well. Let's take a look. So this is a deep disbarred or retired attorney that sent this letter. So not really there. What I wanted to get at was this. Here we go. Betty Smoose learned of the message. Okay, perhaps the most unsettling set of alleged events described in Betty Smoose's Title IX complaint unfolded in Fort Collins, Colorado, in advance of the Spartans' October 3rd match against the Colorado State University Rams, CSU Rams. Been there many times when I lived in Boulder. It's just Fort Collins up the road. In an obvious dig at Slusser, who at the time had only gone public with her concerns about Fleming, the CSU facilities announcer declared the event to be an, quote, inclusive, excellent volleyball game. The Spartans were put further on edge. I mean, it's so crazy, right? Your team's going in there, and CSU ends up winning this game. We'll get to why. But if you're going to get beat by this and you have a dude playing on the team we showed the opening spike. I mean, the net is 7 inches, I think, shorter than the men's net. This person's only 6'1", but jumps well, obviously very athletic. There's a complete difference in men and women. And we'll get to a little bit of that in a second here. The obvious dig at Slusser, who at the time had just gone public. Okay, the Spartans put on edge later that day when Slusser's roommate received above-referenced social media threat advising her to, quote, distance herself from Brooke tomorrow at the game. It will not be good for her. Okay. Betty Smoose learned of the message after checking in on the team's local hotel and began making inquiries to ensure the team's members were safe. It was at that moment, Betty Smoose reports, that the team's learning Fleming had left the hotel. It was subsequently learned that Fleming had been accompanied by another player, whom I would refer to as Kim, as she prefers not to be prefers to remain publicly anonymous. Their distinction at the residence of CSU's right side hitter Malaya Jones, against whom Fleming would directly line up in the next day's match. During that match, Betty Smoose claimed that her Title IX complaint, Fleming's play style was bizarre. Fleming defied her coach's instructions by allowing Jones an unhindered diagonal hitting lane that would expose Slusser to kills. Betty Smoose also reports that she repeatedly saw Fleming laughing together with Jones after the latter targeted Slusser in this manner. Fleming's behavior was reportedly so strange that even Coach Kress expressed concern and took Fleming aside for a one-on-one talk. But Fleming's behavior didn't change, and SJSU lost the match in straight sets. The Spartans first defeated the season. At one point, says Betty Smoose, Blair sent an overpass, and we'll play the video of this actually, perfectly setting up Malaya to kill the ball again in the direction of Brooke Slusser, after which Jones blew a kiss towards Fleming and mouthed thank you. In an interview with Colette, Slusser confirmed Betty Smoose's description of the match in all respects. Here's the video. We'll play it in a second. It was only the next day the guilt-stricken Kim reportedly stepped into Kress's office to tearfully tell Kress and Betty Smoose that she'd heard on the evening October 2 that Betty Smoose received apparent confirmation of her hunch that Fleming had allegedly thrown the match. By Kim's reported telling, as Betty Smoose summarized in her sworn declaration to university officials, Fleming gave Jones the SJSU scouting report and engineered a plan to leave the center of the court open so that Jones would be able to target Slusser with powerful spikes in an unhindered fashion. Kim, Jones, and Fleming were all asked for the comment. All declined. This is all hearsay, of course, but Kim's alleged claims certainly align with this isn't court, though, so this is fine. Aligned with the strange evidence that Betty Smoose and Slusser would witness during the next day's match. Moreover, Kim's decision to come forward ran entirely against her own interests, leading her claims with more credence, as it required her to not only betray Fleming's confidence, but also to admit the Spartans' coaching staff that she'd breached the team policy by leaving the hotel on the night of October 2, a fact coaches hadn't previously known. I would say more importantly, the fact, even though they have a policy that you're not supposed to be leaving the hotel, after probably a certain time, giving the other team the playbook and intentionally colluding with them to defeat your own team and to embarrass them is the worst problem and should be one for you to be kicked off the team, if not outright suspended for a while, right? According to Betty Smooth, Kress began downplaying Kim's story as she'd left the office. When Betty Smooth followed up the next week by asking steps Kress had taken, he replied wearily, "It's out of our hands." And he reported the information to Alexander, who in turn, he said, had reported the information to University Title IX office. I would just say that it's probably all bullshit, or they're just scared to death of this person because the nature where they are in San Jose, being very woke over in there, and having concerns about what could happen to them, your own coach, being a coach and your tenure and whatnot. Let's just go quickly. I'm going to walk through this. So how do they determine, when you're transgender and the policies that go into it for you to be qualified? Now, what's always telling, because I've done this exact breakdown with cycling before, okay? And what's always telling is about which direction. If this was such a thing where it's just, it's just someone transferring over, no one has an advantage. Then you would have similar protocols for a female trying to transition to a man as you would from a man transitioning to a woman, but you don't. They simply say things like this. Let's go here. Here's the policies update. Do not change eligibility for a okay. The policy updates do not change eligibility requirements for a trans man to compete. Okay, so a man, right? However, gender-affirming medical care for any student athlete could involve the use of NCAA-banned substances, in which case the school would require to submit a medical exemption request based on that. For a trans woman student athlete to be eligible to compete in NCAA sports, student athletes must do the following. So here's one where it's a girl trying to be a man. They call him a trans man. That one is just like, hey, you're subject to all the tests men are subjected to. So take that testosterone as much as you want to try to get yourself up there. Good luck, lady. It's really not going to do much for you, but good luck. And by the way, your levels just can't be above any other norming testing. However, if you're going the other way, here's where the problem is. Evidence of serum testosterone level. Laboratory results demonstrating a one-time total serum testosterone level that is within the affordable, allowable levels for the sport in which the student athlete plans to complete. Additional submitted laboratory results must be within 4 weeks, 28 days prior to the application completion date. Example, student athletes' first contest at each playing season, segment, championship, and then there goes a bit different things here. So let me break down this testosterone levels that the NCAA has set up, which, by the way, if you look at these at other sports, cycling as an example, when I've gone through them, they're absurd. Absolutely absurd, because the limit here is 10 nanomoles per liter. Okay, which and it's for all these sports. You can see field hockey, okay, cross country, rugby, get a dude out there. Women's soccer, triathlon. That one's 2.5. So why is it so much different for triathlon? 2.5 down to compared to 10. And you're like, what is this threshold? This is a threshold approved by the NCAA Committee on Competitive Safeguards and Medical Aspects of Sport that will be caused by CSMAS medical review panel to evaluate the eligibility of transgender student athlete intending to complete All right, so let's take a look at just a quick AI inquiry as to, hey, what is, that's a different one. I want to look at this one here. What is this limit? Sorry. Athlete hormone level. According to various sources, a testosterone level of 10 nanomoles per liter is considered to be around the bottom normal range for adult males. Okay, so if you're adult male and you're 10 nanomoles per liter, that's on the low side. But more than 3 times higher than the upper limit of normal range for adult females. Obviously, there's a Jesus. Let me mute this real quick. Hang on. What's going on? So there's low range, high range, but why 2.5 for triathlons and 10 for these other sports? I don't know. A lot of these different sports have their own governing bodies, okay? And they will go through and determine what these amounts are. So if you're going to compete in the Olympics, it can be all different. But 10 nanomoles is a lot for a woman to really be going through. But they can pump themselves up there. But that's still in the low end of a male. But you're doing something. You're trying to now. What they're really saying though is you're low for a man, but you're really high for a woman. So you're still allowing this man to not be as much of a man, but to be more of a man than a woman. Still, even by these matters, does that mean that a woman could go in there and start to pump themselves up to be up to this limit as well? Probably not. So you've got normal, it's women are here, their serum level. Trans women, I can't believe I just said that. A dude trying to play with women can be here, and men are still here. So you are still not even putting them down to the level that a normal woman would be, normal weight for adults. Current IOC, International Olympic Committee, requires transgender women athletes to lower their testosterone levels below 10 nanomoles for at least 12 months prior to competition. Okay. That's the where you go. So what's always so fascinating there is, once again, there's obvious differences that you have to understand to be this, which is going from a woman to a man. They don't even say there's any restrictions. Just don't overdo it like a man. Men to women, you do have to suppress yourself, but you still, even the legal limit is 3 times higher than a normal female. That's somewhat crazy to me. Okay, so there's a lawsuit out there. We'll drop through. I don't want to actually look too much into this. There's a complaint Riley Gaines and a bunch of women did. They did it in the Northern District of Atlanta. They asked for a jury trial. The plaintiffs are National Collegiate Association, University System of Georgia. It was all this Georgia. And then the new lawsuit had actually gone directly right after the, let's take a look at this one. I'm not going to read it all because it's literally like 100 and some pages. But it is interesting reading if you're ever to go through this. Let's go. Whoops. Why does it keep doing this? Okay. Against the NCAA. Second amended complaint for damages, declaratory, equitable, and class relief to demand for jury trial. This is an action under Title IX of the Education Amendments, codified 20 U.S.C. 1681, Title IX, in the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, the bane of my existence, of the United States Constitution, remedy sex discrimination against women in college sports. Title IX, the Education Amendments of 1972, U.S.C. 20 U.S.C. 1681 provides that no person in the United States shall, on basis of sex, be excluded from participation in or be denied the benefits or subjected to the discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. And that's the problem you have here, which is the federal government is giving them schools money. And with that, they can start dictating things. And we'll look real quickly at the Obama Dear Colleague letter when he was in office, which tried to change a lot of this. But, there's still ramifications. Even though the letter's been rescinded, a lot of policies got put in place. A lot of schools then, with this and prior to this and around this, had all these people working their Title IX gender issues, more staff to qualify and to make sure you're on par with this. So there was a lot of problems. The NCAA's transgender eligibility policies on their face and in practice discriminate against women based on sex and deprive women of equal opportunity in comparison to men in college sports regulated by the NCAA. The decision to implement the NCAA's transgender eligibility policies is an association-wide decision made by the NCAA Board of Governors. NCAA's transgender eligibility policies were intentionally designed and are purposely implemented and enforced by the NCAA to give NCAA member institutions in which Title IX applies an excuse for violating Title IX by allowing men to compete in women's teams in intercollegiate sports, and to impose a nationwide rule that requires colleges, universities, student athletes, and other to uncritically accept and comply with the subordination of women's rights in the interest of a relatively small number of men. It is interesting, and this thing will go on. It is interesting to see nowadays where feminism is to the point now where it's not even about actual women; it's about men. We just do everything better, right? Caitlyn Jenner, Man of the Year or Woman of the Year, barely was a woman and outdid women who've been women for much longer and much better at it. But evidently not. Okay. Title IX. Let's look at this real quick. This is the Title IX shit that Obama put in place, which was somewhat rejected. But during Obama presidency, the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, OCR, issued several guidance documents and letters aimed at clarifying and enforcing Title IX protection against sex discrimination, including sexual harassment and violence in educational institutions. Key developments include Dear Colleague letter on transgender students, 2016. The OCR issued a letter stating that the Title IX's prohibition on sex discrimination applies to gender identity and transgender status. The letter instructed schools to treat transgender students consistent with their gender identity, including allowing them to use facilities and participate in activities consistent with their gender. Sexual violence guidance. This is the other one. The interpretation of sex, I think, was a big problem. Interpreted sex. Title IX include not only biological sex, but also gender identity and expression. The interpretation was reflected in those guidance. This goes sexual violence. The guidance on institutions, how they should respond to sexual violence, including sexual assault and harassment. The guidance emphasized the importance of a prompt, equitable investigations, provided examples for effective policies. That one is one that snared a bunch of men because there's fake shit going on out there. You have I'm trying to remember, there was a bunch of cases that came along. Betty DeVos was the lady that was in charge of that at the time. When Trump came in, she was the one that rescinded a bunch of this stuff. So, but there were, false accusations, and didn't matter. Even with evidence showing that it was the case, dudes just got railroaded. So this is where you tend to be a little concerned, excuse me, in that respect. So what's going to happen with this? I don't know, but the assistant coach evidently got fired. So this is pathetic that this team is allowed to basically have this going on. I think what other schools should be doing is just bringing dudes on. Just bring them on and let them look. Here's volleyball, which is interesting about volleyball. Men's volleyball in college is, for most schools, a club sport. Women, it's a legit NCAA team, and men, there's very few. There's San Jose State, I think they may have one. Long Beach, UCLA, USC. There's some of these schools, but not everyone has a men. They need to there's men out there that can play. They play on club teams. Just bring them on every time you have him on the team, but he doesn't really play. And then you go and when they play this team, just have those guys on there and start beating the shit out of them. Maybe that's what you have to do, the mutually assured destruction. Now they're doing the lawfare thing, and I think it's pretty admirable that some of these women are sticking up for this. But like I've said, if you really want this and you just get rid of it, it's going to be just open season on everything, because this Brooke Fleming, while he can play, he's not great compared to the men that play. Okay. Pretty good for the women, and the women in college are amazing, very good volleyball players. I'm not gonna doubt that at all. A girl that was played with my daughter, she was best one that went to the school there, very good, played in a lot of club stuff. She goes down to a very prominent school in Southern California, doesn't make the team because it's tough. These girls can play, but so can the boys. It's just, and it's fine to understand that there's a actual difference between those. And so keep your eyes open for this one. I will be following this. This lawsuit. I am happy that Riley Gaines. Now, there's some things about Riley Gaines that bother me, which is that the rights jumps on her because she's good looking, and she's doing the right thing for this, and then they like to grift. So Charlie Kirks and all that, they get in there. But it seems like this girl, this Brooke, she's doing the right thing. I think she has a lot more skin in the game to really stand up. And so I think what Riley Gaines does is it allows these girls to at least feel like they have someone that's got their back, right? She's out there vocal, and she's doing what she can. And by the way, it also helps when you're decent looking to have this going on. So there you go. So will we be doing some more this week? Today, I've just got a bunch of work, so we're doing a short show, and then we'll go on. I'll talk tomorrow's the election. So what's going to happen? I don't know. Could be, we might not know when we do Tower Gang on Wednesday. When I say we, I don't do it. I just in the backside. I don't agree with anything those guys say. They're deplorable. I condemn everything that they stand for. So anyway, Tower Gang on Wednesday. By then, the election may or may not be over. Who knows? So go out and vote. I'll say one last thing about Kamala that it should piss you off if you do like her, which is you've probably seen videos of this in California where people just go in and they'll just steal stuff, right? And everyone's like, oh, because there's a law on the books that you can't have, you can't prosecute them basically if it's under $1,000 or something like that. That's kind of the gist. There's a new proposition on the books, on the ballot this time, that would reinstate that, right? I'm sorry, that's now a crime. And someone asked her about that yesterday or this morning. She's voting. Let me see if I could even have it. Maybe I even have this on my Twitter. Maybe I saved this one. But basically they said, hey, what do you think about this? Let's see if it's here. Nope. Someone's crying. Dogs barking at each other. No, I don't see it here. So they said, hey, what's your vote on this? And she's like, I'm not going to talk about it, which is pathetic. This thing's going to win by like 70% here in California. Of course it should be on the ballot. Why is that something that she's afraid to express? She'll tell you about everything else she's voting because I think she still got some ties to the criminal justice reform with the Soros types in here. And so she doesn't want to lose some of her political acumen, I guess, for that. I don't know. It's a little odd. But anyway, get out there and vote, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Until tomorrow. Tomorrow? Maybe not tomorrow. Maybe
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise Crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder, for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. Why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is...
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.